What is going on, Nuggets Nation, NBA fans? My name is Tom Leuthner. Welcome back to another episode of Nuggets Today, brought to you by Fan Arch. As you guys can see, I'm obviously on the road, so the background is a little different. You got a little cat picture right here where I am. And unfortunately, I actually did not get to make it through the entire game just because of my work schedule, what time I had to wake up, what time the game was. But there are some things that through the third quarter I do want to talk about, and then I'll get to the episode tomorrow on the rest of the game for the Denver Nuggets. But the first thing I want to talk about is it's a shame that Curtis Jones is not able to play for this Denver Nuggets team in the playoffs. But I did speak about him earlier this season. I talked about him being a guy that Denver should look into, and it came down to the undrafted players and who I liked. Him, Tamar Bates was one of them. Even guys that just played for the Summer League team this year. I mean, EJ Liddell was another guy who in his extended opportunity in Brooklyn the last few games has been awesome for them. But Curtis was awesome. I mean, a spark for the Denver Nuggets, drops 13 points through, like I said, three quarters, 4 for 4 from the 3 point line, 4 for 5 from the field overall. I think that he is somebody Denver needs to look into bringing back next year. And it's weird to say that, but I know that there's not much of, there's not much to go based off of. There's not much game film for him this past year, but we don't want to do the same thing that we do with Colin Gillespie, where this guy leaves, goes to a team, and ends up being the breaking the 3 point record for a season with another organization. I think that he is a guy whose offensive spark and the the offensive versatility that he could bring to this team can definitely be something that's a little exciting. Another guy to look into is obviously David Roddy, but I don't know where Denver goes this offseason. I mean, I'm gonna be more worried about the playoffs than I am about free agency in the offseason. But certain guys I would like for Denver to look back into. I mean, David Roddy is a guy that you have to sort of look into. Curtis Jones is a guy that you definitely have to keep an eye on because he's a good player. He is. He's a very good player. And the one thing that I feel like Denver lacks the majority of the time, and it's funny to say this, is just somebody who can shoot the ball and strictly shoot the ball and be that kind of guy. And he's definitely that kind of guy. And if you bring back Tim Hardaway Jr. and you extend him on a cheap contract where he's not taking up too much cap space, he can be a late bench guy. That would be huge for the Denver Nuggets just because he gets to learn under one of the best spot up shooters in the entire NBA. So that would be great, in my opinion, for the Denver Nuggets. And hopefully they make the right decision to bring him in and you don't go back to the Calvin Booth era and don't hold on to a guy that should definitely be on your roster. Now the next guy, I guess two people I want to talk about are the two people that I think need to be ready for this for the playoffs and definitely looked it. The first guy, obviously, being Julian Strawther, another game where Strawther comes out and just proves that he is the offensive player that we all thought he was. And it also makes me question David Adelman a little bit. Why was he not playing earlier in the year? Why was he not getting majority of the minutes when the team was hurt and when players weren't playing? And I know that he deals with his own injuries and he has his own history when it comes down to injuries in the past. But I do question David Adelman's decisions because he is a guy who is super talented. Like I always say, we saw him in the playoffs basically win Denver a game against the reigning champs, the Oklahoma City Thunder. He is a guy who is a good ball handler. He's been hustling on defense. And I know that was the big thing is that defensively, he is not um, he's not the guy that was great on ball. He's sort of lazy. He would always allow, a bucket scored on him. But his defensive ability has been there. His hustle has been there. He is definitely improved on both sides of the floor. And like I continue to say, if Denver loses Bruce and they lose Tim next year, he's not going to make up for both of them. But the talent that he has off the bench can definitely make up for one of them, and he's not expensive. And I think that you need to utilize him, especially this upcoming year, as much as you can just before his contract runs out. I know that another team's probably going to pay him, and Denver's not going to want to pay him, but I would love to see him remain a Denver Nugget. Like I said, I mean, this is through three quarters, 4 for 6 from the 3 point line, 8 for 14 from the field, 2 turnovers, which that's fine to me when you're the primary ball handler. You drop 23, 4, and 3. He's a guy that, like I always say, gets the hustle rebounds when you need them. He is able to hit shots. I mean, he banked in a 3 at one point, but he has such a quick release. And I think that that's huge for the Denver Nuggets because if you want to get a shot off quick and you need somebody who can be that spark, Julian Strawther is the guy. The other guy that I think looked ready in, again, through 14 minutes, 6 points and 2 assists for Zeke Naji, 3 for 5 from the field, 0 for 2 from the 3 point line, which is fine. in my opinion, when it came down to Zeke and him just looking ready, it was more about him moving the ball and being comfortable catching the ball more than anything. I know it sounds so weird, but you have these guys who come in and it seems like when the ball comes their way, they get a little nervous in bigger situations. But Zeke's been with the team for a little while. I know that he obviously dealt with his injuries his rookie year, and then since then, every single Denver Nuggets fan has hated him. But he got the opportunity early this year, and we knew that with David Adelman. And David Adelman saw something in him, let him play when everybody got hurt, and he looked good. And I think that he looked good in this game. Like I said, just being able to move the ball a little bit, knowing to make, what decision to make and what was the right decision. He has zero fouls. Or zero turnovers, but 3 fouls in this game. So that's why DA pulls him a little bit earlier. But I do think that at some point in the playoffs, he may be a guy who is called upon not to be a reliable, player who's going to get extended minutes, but just a guy who might need to come in for, giving Nikola Jokic a break if Valanciunas is out of the rotation, which I don't know if that will happen. But I definitely think Julian Strawther needs to be ready for when his number is called, because he's probably going to be one of the first guys off the bench if he keeps playing this well. Talking about Jonas Valanciunas and Nikola Jokic, they both took advantage of the situation that they were handed. Again, this is through 3 quarters. They took advantage of the opportunity that they were handed. That's to go against former Denver Nugget, one of my favorite players when he played for Denver, Mason Plumlee. He ends up being the starting center just because Cornette's missing time. Wemby's out. The Spurs ended up sitting their team. And the Nuggets played Nikola Jokic in the first half so that he was eligible for the MVP. And he drops 23, 8, and 1 in 18 minutes, shooting 7 for 12 from the field. He also tacks on 1 block, no steals, no turnovers, which is a great stat line for Nikola Jokic. And in the 15 minutes at the time of this recording that Jonas Valanciunas did play, he dropped 10, 10, and 4, which is insane that he is able to come in and be this reliable of a backup center in Denver. You still have to wonder if he's going to be the guy that's going to end up backing up Nikola Jokic and being the guy that gets those minutes in the playoffs just because of his defensive abilities. I know it gets a little nerve-wracking because Jokic isn't the best defender in the world, and Val obviously doesn't help that case out at all just because he's also not a good defender. So that's why I think that Zeke might have to wait for his number to be called just because he is a guy who can play defense. I know he's a little bit smaller, but at the same time, you want to see a guy that can come in and maybe just stop lobs, which I feel like Val and Jokic both struggle to do. But the fact that Valanciunas is able to come in and take advantage when he gets the opportunity is great. I mean, he's a seasoned vet. What else would I expect from this guy? But I do think that he carved out his role in the playoff rotation, and he definitely deserves to be there for this Denver Nuggets team. Now, last thing I want to touch on is just a San Antonio Spur, and somebody who I think can be a very good player, but Carter Bryant definitely took advantage of the opportunity that he's been given, especially in recent form. I mean, he's a rookie. I believe he was in the dunk contest, and he is special. I think that he is somebody who has been getting the last 3 games, especially 25 minutes, 21 minutes up to this point. In the last 3 games, 17 points on 6 for 9 shooting against Portland, against Dallas, 12 on 4 for 5 shooting, 3 for 3 from the 3-point line, and then against Denver in those 21 minutes, he had 9 points on 4 for 8 shooting from the field. And then you go back to Portland, he shoots 5 for 6, and then you look at the other stats that he's able to tag along there. Against Portland, he grabs 5 boards, 4 assists. Against Dallas, 4 and 2, and then against the Nuggets, up to this point, 5 and 5. And he tags on a block in every single game but Portland, 2 against his Denver Nuggets team. And the athletic ability that he brings to the table for this San Antonio Spurs team is a little scary because I already think that they're stacked up, and then a guy like this who you don't expect anything from comes in and is dunking on Nikola Jokic and blocking David Roddy as he's going up for a dunk, and being a smaller defender to try to guard Nikola Jokic and doing a pretty good job at it was, overall for him, it's great because I think that he's carving out a role in this team. I mean, you look at it, he's 20 years old. And on the season, he's averaging 4 points, but he didn't get the role that he's been getting now. So to see him be probably the last guy that would probably touch the floor for the San Antonio Spurs team in the playoffs and be able to do what he's been doing when given a bigger role is huge for this already stacked San Antonio Spurs team. Anyway, I'll get to the whole playoffs, seeding and talk in tomorrow's episode. Like I said, I wasn't able to get fully through the game. I was up to the third quarter and had to call quits to get an episode out for you guys before I crash and knock out during the game. But I will have all my playoff talk and my pre-playoff beliefs and thoughts in tomorrow's episode now that we have a little bit of break. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today, Nuggets Nation. Like I always say, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as comment down below, and I'll catch you guys later.